Namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudhyarayet nastapareshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Reading from the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 20, Conversation between Maitreya, it's too loud,
I'll fix it.
and Vidura, text 42 and 43. Ojasvantam manyamana atmanam bhagavan aja sadyan ganan pitar gunan parokshena srajat. Prabhu, recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the hosts of Sadyas and Pitas. The Sadyas and Pitas are invisible forms of departed souls, and they are also created by Brahma. Text 43. Te Atma Sargam Tam Kayam Pitala Pratipedare Sadyebhyas Cha Pitarbhyas Cha Kavayo Yad Vitanvate Ta Atma Sargam Tam Kayam Pitara Pratipedare Sadyebhyas Cha Patirbhyas Cha Kavayo Yad Vitanvate Ta Atma Sargam Tam Kayam Pitara Pratipedare Sadyebhyas Cha Patirbhyas Cha Kavayo Yad Vitanvate. They, Atmasargam, source of their existence, Tam, that, Kayam, body, Pitara, the Pitas, Pratipedare, accepted, Sadyebhaya, to the Sadyas, Cha, and Pitarbhya, to the Pitas, Cha, also, Kavaya, those well versed in rituals, yat, through which vitanvate, offer oblations. Translation. The Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well versed in the rituals offer oblations to the Sadyas and Pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha. Purport by His Divine Grace, ISKCON's founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shraddha is a ritualistic performance observed by the followers of the Vedas. There is a yearly occasion of 15 days when ritualistic religionists follow the principle of offering oblations to departed souls. Thus, those fathers and ancestors who, by freaks of nature, might not have a gross body for material enjoyment can again gain such bodies due to the offering of Shraddha oblations by their descendants. The performance of Shraddha, or offering oblations with prasad, is still current in India, especially at Gaya, where oblations are offered at the lotus feet of Vishnu in a celebrated temple. Because the Lord is thus pleased with the devotional service of the descendants, by His grace He liberates the condemned souls of forefathers who do not have gross bodies, and He favors them again to receive a gross body for development of spiritual advancement. Unfortunately, by the influence of Maya, the conditioned soul employs the body he gets for sense gratification, forgetting that such an occupation may lead him to return to an invisible body. The devotee of the Lord, or one who is in Krishna consciousness, however, does not need to perform such ritualistic ceremonies as Shraddha, because he is always pleasing the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his fathers and ancestors who might have been in difficulty are automatically relieved. The vivid example is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj requested Lord Nrsingadev to deliver his sinful father, who had so many times offended the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord replied that in a family where a Vaishnava like Prahlad is born, not only his father, but his father's father and their fathers up to the 14th father back are all automatically delivered. The conclusion, therefore, is that Krishna consciousness is the sum total of all good work for the family, for society, and for all living entities. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author says that a person fully conversant with Krishna consciousness does not perform any rituals because he knows that simply by serving Krishna in full Krishna consciousness, all rituals are automatically performed. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapinam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gada Mayam Dedati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vinam Nam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Rijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vidhamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Tidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ta Atmasargam Tam Kayam Pidara Pratipedide Sadyebhyascha Pitabhyascha Kavayo Yadvitanvate. The Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well versed in the rituals offer oblations to the Satyas and Pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha. So the question was asked, how did Lord Brahma evolve the universe? And here is an elaborate answer. We see in the series of verses that we've been reading of late that it is not a very pleasing process, this involvement that Lord Brahma is responsible for, nor are the results predictable, or we could even say desirable in terms of, or in relationship to what Brahma perhaps would have wanted as a highly evolved personality, the most qualified person in the entire universe. But because this universe must be created to facilitate living entities who have come here to forget Krishna consciousness and try to be happy in Maya, or the illusion of thinking themselves the body, the enjoyer, the possessor, the proprietor, etc. So many different bodily forms and arrangements must be provided for them. And we see that Lord Brahma, he's has to go through quite a, we'll use the word catharsis, to complete the entire task. Lord Chaitanya encourages us that this Yuga Dharma, or the process of devotional service, prescribed and recommended in this age of Kali Yuga, can completely cleanse from the heart and mind all anarthas, or unwanted desires, and ultimately reveal the shining brilliance of pure consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness, pure devotional service, which is the ultimate real identity of every living entity, Jivara Srupoi Krishnera Nityadas. We just heard about the ghosts and hobgoblins, and how people who are impure, unclean, as mentioned, drooling when sleeping at night, they are good candidates or prone to be haunted by ghosts and to go insane. So, today we're hearing about the Pitas and ancestors, those who, due to their material enjoyment, material desires, and their sinful activities, could perhaps be in a ghostly body. So, it's not that family relationships are everything. Vaishnavacharyas, they speak in their Padyavali, how who is your father, who is your brother, who is your mother. Actually, Srila Prabhupada in his Viraha Astakam, written in his retired life, said all that is left of this family life is simply a list of names. In Krishna consciousness, everyone is your family member. Love of Godhead radiates from the hearts of pure devotees to everyone equally, without thinking, these are my family members, these are my loved ones, and these other persons are not. We see how Srila Prabhupada was so concerned to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world that he lived in such a way which was unimaginable or quite extraordinary for a quote-unquote person his age, between the age of 70 and 80, traveling around the world, never staying in one place for any more than a week or so at most, sometimes just a day or two or three, outdoing his young disciples and helpers who were 50 or 60 years younger than him, completely on the spiritual platform, more than that, on the platform of extraordinary love of Godhead, in service to Krishna, in service to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Prabhupada takes the opportunity here to, at length, give us a pretty informative and detailed purport about what is the Shraddha ceremony. Shraddha is a ritualistic performance observed by followers of the Vedas. So as soon as we hear the word ritualistic, we should understand that we have descended from the plane or terrace of pure devotional service. When you're performing a ritual, invariably, or it is understood, that you're going through a procedure to gain something that you will use ultimately not in pure consciousness, something for the upkeep or the progress of living in the material world. So even these are prescribed religious procedures, rituals. Prabhupada says in one place, there is danger of accident even on the royal road. We see how the Brahmins engaged in ritualistic performances, they were so blinded by their conceptions, preconceived ideas, that even the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his most confidential associates came and asked them for something very, very simple, which was easy for them to do, supply them food. They refused. Not only refused, said, oh, we're very sorry, we would love to, but we can't do that. They just looked at them like they're a nuisance, and just, actually, without even replying yes or no, they completely ignored them. It's like a New York City ignoring, right? You don't exist. Excuse me, sir. They walk past you like you're just, if they could, they'd walk right through you just like you were air. You're not even, they'd walk through you just like you're air because you're not even there. And their wives, who were very, not only just simple, but simple, not overly complicated in their mental speculation, if at all. They were very devoted to the Supreme Personality of God, and they could immediately understand the position of Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys, and 100% opposite what this. They completely took this as the most golden opportunity of their lives to fulfill the request of Krishna and Balaram par excellence. They made a huge feast with all varieties of prasad, not like, okay, rip a piece of bread in half here, something like that. The ritualistic performance observed by the followers of the Vedas, Shraddha. So Prabhupada explains, we heard in the purport, there's a place in India, Gaya, where oblations or pinda are offered at the lotus feet of Vishnu in a celebrated temple. And Prabhupada explains the purpose of receiving a material body. It is for the further, his exact words are nice, receive a gross body for development of spiritual advancement. Unfortunately, by the influence of Maya, the conditioned soul employs the body he gets for sense gratification, forgetting that such an occupation may lead him to return to an invisible body. So it's understood that those who commit suicide out of insanity or great depression, this is considered a sinful activity, even though you're not hurting someone else, that you don't have a right to take your own life or destroy your body. You must go through this life to its purposeful or destined end or conclusion, and that interruption leads one invariably or predictably to ghostly life. The devotee of the Lord, or one who is in Krishna consciousness, however, does not need to perform such ritualistic ceremonies as Shraddha, because he is always pleasing the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his fathers and ancestors who might have been in difficulty are automatically relieved. And Prabhupada gives the greatest example, which he uses the vivid example, is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj requested Lord Nrsingadev to deliver his sinful father, who had so many times offended the lotus feet of the Lord. It's interesting how it's not mentioned here, how he so many times tried to kill Prahlad Maharaj. His offense to the Lord was verbal until the Lord came as Lord Nrsingadev, but even then, if there was any physical offense on behalf of Prahlad Maharaj to Lord Nrsingadev, it was just in the course of the process of him being killed by Lord Nrsingadev himself. So, so many times offending the Lord was offending the Lord's devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. And it was only Prahlad Maharaj who could ask the Lord to forgive him, extraordinarily so. But the principle here is that it's not that Hiranyakashipu is offending Prahlad Maharaj, who is, even though he's a little boy, 5 years old, the important connection is that he is his son, his offspring. So this principle, the Lord replied that in a family where a Vaishnava like Prahlad is born, not only his father, not just Hiranyakashipu, but his father and their father's grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather. We say, how many times do we get to the 14th forefather? How many times do we have to say grandfather, great? 12 times, 13 times? All are automatically delivered. The conclusion, therefore, is that Krishna consciousness is the sum total of all good work for the family, the society, and for all living entities. Prabhupada would reiterate and encourage his disciples that simply by coming to Krishna consciousness, you're delivering your entire family for generations back. There's the memoir of Jagatarini Devi Dasi, who's from Australia, and Prabhupada's visit there to Melbourne her parents came to meet Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, that your daughter is going to deliver. Don't think that your daughter taking the Krishna consciousness, she's leaving her responsibility to the family, because she will deliver you all back home, back to Godhead. And her father was a amicable, friendly kind of person, and he just kind of chuckled and laughed when he heard that and said, well, I always thought she would do something like that. So this could be a not easy thing to understand or perceive how it is real, but how it is actual fact. It's not something that we're going to see next week, next month, next year, or at any guaranteed point. But the more that we absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness and our faith increases and expands, the more we'll understand this to be so. There are so many encouragements in the chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna concludes the chapter by saying, Vedeshu yagneshu tapashe chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradistam atyeti tat sarvam idam vidatva yogi param stanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. Prabhupada says in this purport, the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that by one stroke, by engaging in devotional service, one can surpass all the rituals of the different orders of life. By advancement in the association of the devotee, one is placed in devotional service, and this service dispels all one's misgivings about Krishna or God and Krishna's activities, form, pastimes, name, and other features. After these misgivings have been perfectly cleared away, one becomes fixed in one's study. Then one relishes the study of Bhagavad Gita and attains the state of feeling always Krishna conscious. In the advanced stage, one falls completely in love with Krishna. This highest perfectional stage of life enables the devotee to be transferred to Krishna's abode in the spiritual sky, Goloka Vrindavan, where the devotee becomes eternally happy. And in the 5th chapter of the 11th canto, there's this very important verse, which is quoted many times in Srila Prabhupada's books. Devarshi putapta nirnam pitirnam nakinkaro nayam rinecha rajan sarvatmana ya saranam karanyam gato mukundam parihirtya kartam. O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who is surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. And that ties into Bhāgavatam 4:31-14. Yata taror mula niseshanena tripyanti taskanda bijopashaka. If one waters the root of a tree, automatically All of the branches, twigs, leaves, etc. are also nourished. There is no need for nor any effectiveness in separately pouring water on the branches, twigs, and leaves of a tree. The water has to be placed on the root. Food must be placed in the stomach, where it is automatically distributed to all the limbs of the body. Verse once again. Ta atmasargam tam kayam pitara pratipedire sabebhyascha pitarbhyascha kavayo yad vitarnvate. The Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well-versed in the rituals offer oblations to the Sadhyas and Pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I was always curious what it actually means to, like we talk about like delivering the ancestors, and I was curious as to what that actually means. I know you mentioned, like some of them might go back to Godhead, but in other terms, sometimes Srila Prabhupada says like being delivered or liberating your ancestors. So I was wondering if maybe you could elaborate like what that actually means when someone becomes a pure devotee, like what happens exactly to their ancestors in terms of like the moksha or liberation or being delivered.
Maharaj, would you like to tackle that question?
Yeah, it is kind of a very vague sort of statement. What does it mean that they're delivered? Well, to me, I would say that in due course they will go back home, back to God.
Yeah, in due
Might
course.
not be next lifetime, but somewhere down the line. In the near term, as opposed to most people who won't go back to Godhead for zillions of lifetimes, That's how I would interpret it.
Prabhupada has said that the parents of his disciples will, if they haven't come to understand during this life, at the time of death, will realize what a great boon or fortune it is or was to have a devotee child in their family. Yeah.
Question. You talked about ritual, and when we're getting into like ritualistic practices, we're coming down from the plane of bhakti, of like
Coming
devotional.
down.
You were talking about how we were descending down from the plane of like practicing devotional service when we're getting into like rituals and like like offering things to the ancestors and things like that. So I thought sometimes like, practicing Vaidhi Bhakti can sometimes feel like a ritual. It can sometimes feel mechanistic. So how can we decipher like the difference between that? How can we maintain the freshness?
Well, because we're on the material platform to begin with, we could say the procedures of Vaidhi Bhakti are regulatory procedures that should be done repetitively, regularly, daily, etc., so that we can transcend the bodily and mental platform of life and come to the stage of realizing Krishna consciousness. What is that? Acts of penance, sacrifice, charity, austerity should never be given up because they purify the great souls. Even great souls are purified. So, Narottam Das Thakur Mahasaya, who we just observed his appearance day on Sunday, the Magh Mas Purnima, very auspicious day, he said that Vaidhi Bhakti and Prema Bhakti are the same devotional service, that Vaidhi Bhakti is the stage where it hasn't fully matured or ripened yet. So, and we were just hearing, and then one study of Bhagavad Gita becomes very relishable. That which in the beginning is very pleasing, but in the end is just like poison, which is the most selected form of or pursuit of enjoyment we see of people in this world, is happiness in the mode of passion. But that which in the beginning is not very pleasing, but in the end is just like nectar, that is happiness in the mode of goodness and beyond, transcendental goodness, Krishna consciousness. So that which is prescribed for us by the Acharya, and especially we have the founder Acharya is Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, who will be, as he said, the prominent Acharya for the next 10,000 years. And we all agree that in Srila Prabhupada's society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that all who take on the duty of being an initiating Acharya subsequently, however many generations down during these next 10,000 years, all are thus qualified for such position by their allegiance and service and faithfulness to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and his teachings. Srila Prabhupada is the real Jagat Guru, world Acharya. He was ordered to come to the Western countries, so he is actually the Acharya of Krishna West, the real Acharya. So, we should always, as time goes on, always pray that we can present Krishna consciousness according to the time, place, person, and circumstance in such a way that it will be pleasing to His divine grace. Anything else? All right, thank you very much. Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. So now we have entered into the month of Falgun, which will culminate on the Purnima, which is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day, and we will have to change our calendars from 536 to 537. And through this month there are various appearance days, such as Madhavendra Puri, and coming on Friday is the 149th observance of the appearance of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. So, looking forward. The class will be given by someone. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.